We are talking Megalodon The Frenzy, and this one stars Caroline Williams, Eric Roberts and Jessica Chancellor. And this is the third movie in this Asylum series of Megalodon movies. This is the first one, simply called Megalodon, then we had Megalodon Rising, and now Megalodon The Frenzy. So this actually has kind of two storylines that kind of converge. I suppose our A storyline focuses on a drilling kind of platform out in the kind of the sea somewhere, some type of experimental drilling platform that is headed up by Caroline Williams' character, and they kind of collapse like a seabed, which of course releases megalodons, and then we have the US kind of warships that have been previously battling the megalodons from the last kind of movie. Still in the area, kind of, licking their wounds, so to speak. And this one is headed up by Eric Roberts, and they're dealing with other megalodons. And the idea being that this drilling station is calling out for help, and this sort of ship wants to kind of try and rescue them. So that's your basic setup. And of course, we have multiple megalodons of different sizes in this movie. So, what do we think? So if you're familiar with The Asylum, a low-budget movie production company that kind of hits out a lot of kind of like, B-movies, mockbusters and things. And obviously we had the Meg 2 this year. So this is obviously to come out in competition with that, really, and kind of get the kind of the extra kind of like attention that movie would have produced. The movie, this Megalodon The Frenzy, actually does have a lot in common with the original Meg movie, I would say, in regards to some of the kind of the plot lines here. We even get the kind of the attacks, various kind of like civilian attacks across the coast and things, and little snippets here and there. Let's talk about it. What works in this movie? I mean, let's be honest. If you're going into an Asylum movie, you are, I would imagine, somewhat going to be kind of prepared what you're going to watch, because it's very much a standard Asylum movie. It's nice that we've got, I think, Caroline Williams here, that she makes kind of a nice addition to this kind of like the roster of Asylum movies, movie stars that they kind of have. I would say if they make another Megalodon movie, I would expect to see Danny Trejo in it, if this is the way it goes. But it's nice to see Caroline Williams in it. We do get, I would say, more Megalodon in this movie than maybe you might expect in a lot of these kind of movies. I mean, the kind of the MO of these sort of style movies is to have lots of talking, lots of kind of dialogue sequences, and very little kind of actual sequences that are involving VFX. So because they're the most expensive things to do. And you get a reasonable amount of, I would say, Megalodon sequences with the kind of the CGI in this movie, and they are of mixed quality, but there are a couple of sequences where I think the Megalodon looks pretty good. I would say the Megalodon in this movie looks better than the previous two movies. I will have to say I think the design is a little better. It's a little bit more kind of normal shark looking rather than the kind of the lumpy kind of Megalodons that you might have seen in the previous movies. So yeah, I think the CGI is a little better in certain sequences in this movie. The design of the Megalodons looks okay, and one of the things the Asylum does have the ability is to film on a real kind of ship, a real kind of like warship that I'm assuming is kind of docked somewhere or decommissioned and is a tourist attraction. But it does mean that we have sequences that are filmed on an actual kind of legitimate kind of ship, which gives it a little bit of kind of believability in things, because we see these kind of sequences, many kind of dialogue sequences with these kind of Eric Roberts and his kind of crew of about 5 different Marines that he interacts with on this ship. But it gives it a little bit of kind of like shooting on location. It's not all against the green screen. It looks a little better. So there is that. And there's quite a high body count in this movie. I'll admit a lot of it is just kind of like, wide shots with kind of a Megalodon kind of swallowing up servers and things. But there's a high body count, with lots of kind of like people getting chomped by various kind of sharks and things like that. A lot of these kind of movies tend to have like a B storyline, which is about these kind of like human bad guys, again, that are set designed to just to kind of like pad out the running time. It doesn't have this one. You have two kind of storylines that both are to do with the actual Megalodons here. So that is the primary kind of story here, and you know, I appreciate it because of that. And like I said, there are a reasonable amount of kind of action sequences in this movie, albeit very low budget. So what doesn't work in this movie? Well, you know, it's an asylum movie, and as I mentioned, feels like very much like a standard asylum movie. Even though I would say that you do get a reasonable amount of kind of Megalodon sequences, by far and away, it's conversations in rooms, which is the kind of the staple of any asylum movie. Lots of kind of you know, sequences, dialogue sequences that kind of just hand out exposition to you. We'll do this, but then we'll do that, and kind of let's use this piece of equipment that is designed to do this, but we can actually use it to do this. These kind of type of things. So they're very exposition heavy, very kind of somewhat unnatural sounding dialogue, all kind of in a, you know, a small kind of location. These sequences are very obviously kind of cheap to kind of you know, to kind of film. The dialogue, as I said, is very exposition heavy, so it doesn't feel particularly kind of natural at times. The actors, they're not the best. Some of them are a little bit too over enthusiastic, particularly kind of these like Marines on this kind of warship. It's quite amusing sometimes looking how enthusiastic they are. Let me just kind of put it like this. And as I've mentioned, the Megalodons, the CGI effects are of a mixed quality. Some of the sequences look okay, but there are some where the sharks move in a kind of like an unnatural, floaty kind of style, kind of animation. They kind of move around, not like they're in water, like they're just floating through the air. And you know, we have these kind of sequences where there'll be like a sequence where there's a bunch of people like on the beach or something, and it will just kind of like swim past and like hoover them all up. There's lots of kind of logic defying issues in this one. We have a brief scene where a Megalodon jumps out of extremely kind of shallow water and grabs a woman who's actually on the beach, and then is able to kind of like get back in the water. It would just be sat there beached if it managed to even get on the kind of the shore to begin with. You know, we have like little flubs, like someone refers to sonar as radar and things like this. So again, it's not like the asylum has a particularly kind of like high standard when it comes to you know, wanting to kind of get like realism. A lot of the kind of the military personnel have kind of got ill-fitting kind of costumes on, long hair, and they're kind of not obviously quite looking like a realistic kind of officer or, you know, enlisted person, things like that. So yeah, I mean, you know what you're going to get. I mean, I do think this movie is somewhat entertaining, and I gotta say, I think maybe it's probably the best out of the three asylum-based Megalodon movies, I would say, if I had to kind of like say this. But it's not a good movie, I would say. It's watchable for an asylum film. I'll give it a 4 out of 10. I don't think it's terrible, but it's still like a very predictable and kind of cheap kind of B movie. 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What do you think of it? Please do leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.